largely towards enjoying our natural habitats and our outdoor natural environments, and we've changed, a lot of us have anyway, we've changed the way we holiday to want to experience those things and to take care of those things. As consumer preferences have changed in this way, we have seen the growth of nature tourism quite a lot. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you a bit more about nature tourism, what we can do as nature tourists, and why it's so great. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Hayley Stainton, and I'm here to teach you all things travel and tourism. So let's start at the beginning then. What is tourism? It's all about visiting, you guessed it, natural areas. And it is closely aligned with the concept of rural tourism. Places that nature tourists might visit include beaches, forests, or national parks. Activities focused on the natural environment rather than visiting man-made features. Think stargazing and hiking, for example. There are locations right across the globe that are perfect for nature tourism. The Centre for the Promotion of Imports from Developing Countries in the Netherlands define nature tourism as nature tourism, also called nature-based tourism, is tourism based on the natural attractions of an area. It consists of responsible travel to experience natural areas and their landscape, flora and fauna, protecting the environment and improving the quality of life for locals. And this is actually a really important industry. But why? Nature tourism is important as it allows people to see and appreciate the beauty of our natural environment. Through this kind of tourism, we are able to escape the pollution and pressures of city life. It's good for our physical and mental well-being to be out in the nature, breathing in fresh air and seeing lush greenery and sparkly blue seas. Nature tourism also encourages visitors to take an interest in the natural environment, which may then translate to them making a more conscious effort where environmental issues are concerned. With climate change being an ever-present and ongoing issue, this is definitely a good thing. Following on from this, nature tourism gives landowners, local communities and local governments more reason to preserve and take care of our natural areas. If they know people will want to come and visit, it's in their best interest to look after these places. And it is a great incentive for developing their sustainable tourism provision. Visiting tourists can do wonders for local community pride this way too. As with all tourism, nature tourism brings in money. This economic boost trickles down through the whole community. People need places to stay, they need food to eat, they want to buy souvenirs. Hikers may need to buy replacement walking boots, and weary explorers will always need somewhere to rest their head at night. Jobs are created and economies are boosted through nature tourism. So is there a difference then between nature tourism and ecotourism? Because we see all these terms flying around and it can be hard to really understand what they all mean. Is nature tourism different from ecotourism? Well, put simply, yes. They're very similar, but ecotourism is perhaps a more specialised branch of nature tourism, if we're looking to clearly define the difference in some way. Nature tourism is about visiting an area responsibly, yes, rather than actively aiming to learn about the environment and participating in its protection, as we would if we were an ecotourist. A nature tourist might visit a beach and admire its beauty, while an ecotourist might join in with a beach cleanup. The lines are certainly blurred, as they are so often when we try to differentiate between types of tourism, but ultimately they are two different things. So how can we be a nature tourist then? What are the different types of nature tourism? There are, of course, different types of nature tourism, and this is where we will see similarities with another kind of tourism that I recently talked about too, called adventure tourism. And I do have a video all about adventure tourism, which I will link to at the end. In this video, I talked to you about the two types of adventure tourism, hard and soft. This can be applied to nature tourism too. Soft nature tourism might involve bird watching, visiting a beach to sunbathe, gentle walks through country parks, and things like this. Whereas hard nature tourism is a bit more tough going. Mountain climbing, bushwalking, and scuba diving, for example. So let's look specifically at the exact activities we might want to do if we are a nature tourist. Bird watching. Bird watching is an example of soft nature tourism. People of all ages and abilities can do this, with or without a guide. You just need some background knowledge of bird species, or a book explaining them, and perhaps some binoculars. The Gambia is a hotspot for birdwatching. Scuba diving. This is more of an example of hard nature tourism. It's much more adventurous and requires specialist equipment and a guide, or a lot of training and experience. Head underwater to see what kind of nature is on display down there. Coral, fish, shells, and so much more. It's subjective, but Barracuda Point in Malaysia is apparently the most beautiful dive place to go in the world. And I'm a big fan of diving in Dahab in Egypt too. Scenic driving. Scenic driving is another soft activity in that it's low risk and doesn't require physical exertion. The North Coast 500 in Scotland is an example of a famous scenic drive. This is a great way to experience nature. From rolling hills to winding rivers, there is so much to see out of the window from the comfort of your car. Another fantastic example is the King's Highway in Jordan, where you will see endless desert, canyons, and incredible rock formations. Camping. Camping is, again, an example of soft nature tourism. While it's a little more involved than scenic driving, it is still relatively low risk, and most of us are able to participate. Mount Cook National Park in New Zealand is said to be one of the most beautiful places in the world to camp, with its green landscapes and snowy mountain scenery. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro gives you some fantastic camping opportunities too. Hunting. While controversial, hunting tourism is an example of nature tourism as it takes place in natural spaces. It's definitely one for the hard category, as you need special equipment to do so, and it can obviously be quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And it is often the point of discussions around ethical tourism too, and I have a video on that as well, and I will link to that one again at the end. Stargazing. For the most part, this is a very safe activity and therefore falls into the soft category again. Guided tours are available in all of the very best stargazing locations, such as El Teide National Park in Tenerife, and it has spawned its own branch of tourism. This is known as dark sky tourism, and there are many examples of activities that fall within this. They include stargazing, of course, alongside seeing the northern lights, watching an eclipse, astronomy tours, and staying in accommodations that offer clear views of the night sky, such as glass domes. Bushwalking. This can be dangerous in that it's all about going off the beaten track and walking through bushes or on rough ground. Therefore, we can categorise this as hard nature tourism. It's something you would do when hiking, and it gives you a bit of an adrenaline kick. Visiting parks. One of the easiest and most common forms of nature tourism is simply visiting a park. Whether this is a national park or a local green space at home, visiting a park is a definite example of nature tourism. You'll see birds, insects, flowers, trees, grass, and more. Have a leisurely stroll, cycle through, or sit and eat a picnic surrounded by nature. Fishing. Fishing falls in the middle of the soft and the hard categories. You do need specialist equipment, but with most types of fishing there is little to no risk to life involved. But you do need to be in nature, by or even on a lake or river to do it, so it definitely counts as a form of nature tourism. People have obviously been fishing for years as a source of gathering food, but it is also a recreational hobby enjoyed by many. Kayaking. Kayaking is another middle-of-the-road activity. Kayaking can be dangerous, although it usually isn't. You'll often have a guide with you, and of course specialist equipment, the kayak, is required. It's a really fun activity that lots of people enjoy doing in nature. Beaches. You can visit a beach and do nothing if you want. This is still an example of nature tourism, as beaches are natural environments. Bali has some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and tourists flock here to relax and soak up that sunshine. Beaches are also usually near to bars and restaurants and hotels. And you might find people doing beach yoga or watching sunrise and sunset. Thailand even has all-night moonlit beach parties. Beaches are versatile and beautiful locations. Cycling. Again, another activity that could be considered as hard or soft. It depends where you go, really. A gentle bike ride along a specific cycle lane through a park is nothing like mountain biking in harsh terrains. It's all about taking the level of ability you have and what risks you're willing to take. But cycling is definitely a great way to get out and about in nature. It's also a low-cost and eco-friendly activity, which makes it a winner from many angles. Nature tours. These tend to be longer in duration than many activities mentioned above, which you may do regularly but for a few hours at a time. Nature tours can be days or even weeks-long trips out into the wilderness with nature and wildlife experts. You might travel by air or train or go on a cruise, and your guide will be on hand to point out every aspect of nature that there is to see. These nature tours will take visitors to some of the most beautiful destinations on Earth, such as Croatia, Iceland and Alaska. They'll often set you back a fair bit, but the memories you'll make seeing bears and waterfalls and glorious sunsets will more than make up for it. And nature tourism is a good thing because it typically doesn't have as big a negative impact on the environment as some other forms of tourism do, and it teaches us to really appreciate the beauty around us and the natural world around us that, let's face it, we need to preserve and protect. If you've enjoyed this video, you definitely want to learn more in these too.